What else can we do in terms of photo touch-up? Well, I'm going to open up another file here. I'm just going to hit Command-O here on the Mac or Control-O on the Windows side. And I'm going to go and open up retouch1.jpg inside the Chapter 7 folder. Go ahead and open him up. All right, here's our image. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this guy. What I would like to do is remove this sign. Who would put a sign like this in a forest? I have no idea. Maybe someone who doesn't want to get lost off the path or something. So what I want to do is I want to try and remove this sign from the image. Kind of a tall order, but certainly possible here with the magic of Photoshop. I'm going to use something called the clone stamp tool, or what many people simply refer to as the rubber stamp tool, and he's found actually just underneath our red eye tool inside the toolbox. I'll click on this guy, and this guy works in a really unique way. Rather than painting with color, what we're going to be doing is painting with part of our image. It's very, very cool. Everything we know about working with brushes applies here. For example, way up on the options bar, I can go and pull down the brush, pull down here, set my master diameter, my hardness, all that good stuff. Or all of my keyboard shortcuts still apply here, using the open and close square brackets, for example. So, the first thing that I would do here is set the brush size. Maybe I'll go just a little bit larger here. And the next thing that I would do is I would bring my cursor over top of an area of the image that I want to copy or that I want to paint with. And I'm going to lock that area of the image in simply by option clicking on it here on the Mac side or alt clicking with it on the Windows side. I'll bring my cursor over top of the area that I want to paint, this sign here. Notice that I get a little tiny patch of the area that I sampled, and all I'm going to do is start clicking and dragging inside my image here. And I am literally painting bark here inside Photoshop. How amazing is that? You'll notice as I'm dragging that a small cross appears just to the left of my brush. That indicates where I'm copying from. So for example, I could come up here holding down Alt or Option, single click, and then continue painting over top of my sign. Now, I'm going to hit F12 on my keyboard here. I want to back out of what I've done. Don't forget, F12 is the same as choosing File Revert. In other words, going all the way back to the last time that we saved. So I've backed out of everything that I've done here, and I want to show you a couple of other things here. I'm going to hold down Option here on the Mac. Don't forget Alt on the Windows side. I'll start painting here. Now I haven't let go of my mouse yet. I'm dragging with my mouse. And what happens here, you can see I actually start painting with previous portions of the image. I'm actually painting with the left edge of that sign because I haven't let go of my mouse yet. So how this works is every time I stop with my mouse, in other words, every time I let go of my mouse, it's going to resample inside the image, something like this. So I could, for example, Option click or Alt click up here, click a few times, bring my mouse over to the right, click a few more times, bring my mouse up a little bit, this sort of thing. Now the tricky thing with using the clone stamp tool here is you can start to see that I have a pattern forming here inside my bark. Obviously if you're doing something like this, you'd want to make it look as natural as possible. That's what's tricky about all of this retouching here. But I might decide to grab the left side of this tree here and just sort of patch him up here a little bit. Tricky business though, and there's another pattern forming here on my tree. So you know what? I'm going to try a different technique to get rid of this sign. I'm going to hit F12 one more time on my keyboard to go back to where I started. There we are. And I'm going to do something completely different. Rather than using my rubber stamp tool here, I'm going to go and grab an unlikely hero for the moment, the lasso tool. I'm going to grab my lasso tool here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag a selection down just below my sign, maybe something like this. Now, what I want to try and do is take this area and patch it over top of the sign here. So I've got my selection made here. The only thing is that my selection is a very hard edge right now. I want to soften that selection just a little bit. So I'm going to go up to my Select menu, down to Modify, and then down to Feather. Remember feathering from a previous lesson? Try using a feather radius of 5, or maybe I'll try 3 here. I don't want to go very far. And you know what? I'm going to involve my layers here as well. I'm going to go up to my Window menu, down to Layers. And here's a command I haven't shown you yet. I want to take this selection and I want to copy it onto a brand new layer inside my Layers palette. So I'll head up to my Layer menu, And then I have layer via copy and layer via cut. So I'll choose layer via copy. That gives me a brand new layer inside my layers palette. I'll switch to my move tool just by hitting the V key on my keyboard, and then I'll click and drag on that portion and pull them straight up and cover up that sign there, just like that. Now I'll zoom out here. That looks a lot better. Okay, now I could attempt to do the same thing on the right side of this sign here. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Back to the lasso tool. Grab a portion of my image. It's going to be tricky with these leaves in here. There we are there. I'll go and feather my selection. Same story, 3 pixels. Make sure you're back on your background layer. And I'll go layer, new, via copy. Drag this portion up just a little bit. Something like that. Zoom out, see how that looks? Not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, finishing touches here. I'm going to commit to my changes. I'll select all my layers inside the layers palette by using my Shift key, and then I'll hit Command E here on the Mac or Control E on the Windows side, and that flattens everything right down. Wonderful stuff.